All right, so in this video, I'm just gonna give you guys a few things to keep in mind as far as planning your trip to the Dominican Republic. So let's start off with the first one, as far as like what time of year to go. DR is in the Caribbean, you got that tropical weather, so pretty much any time of the year, but generally speaking, hurricane season is from June to around November. So if you're planning a trip during that time frame, just make sure to keep an eye out on the weather forecast, because the worst thing you want to do is get there and then there's a hurricane and your place is flooded and et cetera, et cetera. Also, they say that the best time to visit the Dominican Republic is from December all the way till April. The next point I want to bring up is more for my budget travelers or people who just like to save a little bit of money when they can, and that is flying into major airports. So the Dominican Republic isn't a huge place, so getting around is pretty easy and it's pretty simple. So if you can save money flying into a different airport, then I would consider it. Depending on your situation, right? If you only got 5 days and that's all you have, then your time's limited. But if you're somebody who's maybe spending 10 days, couple weeks, maybe a few months. So for example, let's say you want to fly into Punta Cana, but you can save a few $100s flying into Santo Domingo. Well, one of the great things is that, Santo Domingo is the capital, so there are a lot of bus companies, and they have a direct express route from Santo Domingo that goes straight to Punta Cana. And it's actually my favorite route out of all of them. I think the bus is one of the nicer ones. It's clean. The vibe I get, it doesn't come across as like a low budget type of, company. So the people who usually ride on this route, they have some home training. Next up, we have transportation in the Dominican Republic. Now, there are multiple ways of getting around. One of them I just talked about, buses. You have taxis, which just like anywhere else in the world, you got to be careful, the scams and all that. One popular way is Uber. Now, keep in mind that not Uber Eats. I'm kind of hungry right now. Uber is not available everywhere on the island. Okay, so if you're in the major cities, Santo Domingo, Santiago, you should have Uber. But once you start getting to these beach towns and smaller areas, just be mindful of that. I say that because one popular way and affordable way of getting around is taking a motoconcho, which is a motorcycle taxi. And I would recommend to you guys not to catch a moto taxi. I mean, I know if you're Dominican watching this, you grew up on it, you probably think I'm exaggerating, but nah. I mean, you don't get a helmet, you don't get anything. And then, if your driver accidentally hits a bump or, a little pothole and you go flying, and yeah, you guys get where I'm going. I would recommend, motorcycle taxis. Make those your last resort. Next up, we have like paying for things in the Dominican Republic. Now, while you're on the island, many people would love to take the US dollar. But I always recommend, whenever you're in a country, paying in the local currency. Because usually when you try to pay in US dollars, the exchange rate is not going to be the best. Everybody has their own way of doing it. I usually just go to ATMs. Some people like to exchange their money at airports. Some people like to go to the, exchange places in the town. Whichever method you choose, the point I'm trying to make is I highly recommend paying in the local currency. This brings me to my next point, which is negotiating, which is very normal. It's a cultural thing. You're not going to offend anybody if you try to negotiate the price down, unless you're like in a restaurant or the mall or the supermarket. Like, don't do this there. This is more for if you're in a gift shop, maybe you're trying to buy something on the beach, or the taxi drivers, et cetera, because a lot of times areas, you're going to get a high price. And I think one of the reasons is just because they probably expect you to negotiate down. Just like if you're the buyer, you're going to start off at a low price because you're going to expect the price to increase a little bit. So just keep that in mind. Negotiating is part of the culture. It's normal. And I would recommend doing it, especially if you plan on taking a taxi or something like that. Yeah. Last but not least, we have the visa requirement of the Dominican Republic. Now, from how I understand it, if you're coming from the US, you would get a 30-day stamp on arrival. And if you overstay, I don't believe it's a big problem. You pretty much just pay a fee. So they have it listed. And so, for example, for me, I overstayed, I want to say 10, 11 months. And I just paid my 5,000 peso fee, which is around $80-something. And then that's it. And I was able to come back to the country, no questions asked. So for some of you guys who are going to the DR, maybe you get there, you may enjoy it, you want to stay a little longer. Maybe you fell in love, etc., etc. I wouldn't be too worried about overstaying the 30 days, okay? That's going to end the video. These are just some quick tips or things to keep in mind as far as planning your trip to the Dominican Republic. I hope this video has helped you, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Deuces.